correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPG, the podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience.
Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm here with my friend Steve.
Where's Steve?
Right? Exactly. What's Steve? Who's Steve? When Steve?
That's Steve.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Steve, let's talk about the podcast of the week. I don't think either of them are Steve's, but Order 66
technically could be construed as an honorary Steve.
He
did the first episode. He came back another time to talk about Gamer Nation Con, and
Right.
he did the Mind Over Matter actual play.
That's true. So there you go. That's how we got to Steve.
Yes. So in case anyone is wondering, our G20 Radio Network Spotlight podcast this week is none other than the only podcast that no one ever listens to, the Order 66, which, in case you've never listened to it, is, well, as you might guess from the title, all about Star Wars roleplaying. Chris and Phil are wonderful people. They know much things about Star Wars and role-playing and Star Wars role-playing.
Good people, good things.
I finally got to play and Star Wars with GM Phil at Gamer Nation Con this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that was cool. And look, if that's what you're into, that's the place to go for stuff. And they're everywhere. And if you don't play the new Star Wars and you still want to play Saga Edition Star Wars, you can look up, I don't remember what it's called. It's Order 66 Saga or something. But there are many episodes of them talking about that edition of the game as well.
Yeah.
It's a separate feed, but it's still out there.
It's still content, though.
Yes.
But yeah, Order 66, great folks over there, and lots of fun with the Star Wars stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had sort of come up with our topic for tonight. My thought process was the idea of letting the timer run out. So sometimes we use them as narrative points, and I think sometimes we, especially in investigative games, I'm seeing it in my Hunter game, evidence expires. You run out of time to see everything, and you can't exist in all planes, all existences at the same time, right?
Right.
So, especially in investigative games, I find that it's important to have a handful of items that if your players happen to be at the right place at the right time, they get this thing. But if they're not there, that timer expires and they never see that. And it adds a little bit of a difference, the next time, maybe especially if you're like running a module over and over for, let's say, a con or something along those lines, giving the option to be like, okay, well, you saw this, but you didn't see this, and they didn't get this clue, but you had to figure it out maybe not necessarily the hard way, but the longer way around, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And, no, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that's a very valid thought. Like, on some level, again, this is what, to a point, and they can do this in a video game or whatever, but the idea of time limits is a thing, and it also goes to running a living world when you're GMing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, I can't think of any off the top of my head, mainly because I'm tired, but there's been movie examples of like, oh, well, we in the movie saw this piece of evidence planted, but the characters went back to find it and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And
somebody beat them to it.
Or just things expire. Sometimes evidence just isn't, people aren't in the same place they always are. And I agree with you, as that builds that living world, that feeling that, it's not this fixed point to point to point adventure. It's more of an organic puzzle to put together.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense. I think it now, w- well, but see, I think timers in general are just a really valuable tool
Well, yeah,
because you can just build urgency and engagement.
well, they build urgency, and they also set, they can speed up or slow down scenes as necessary.
Hmm.
Because especially in role-playing games, if I set a timer up and I say it has 10 minutes on it, well, 10 minutes in real time and 10 minutes in game time are two different things.
Hmm.
And if I say 10 minutes in game time and my players are trying to do things and I just keep counting down, that's portraying that time is moving faster and we're trying to speed this up. Whereas if I say 10 minutes in game time and my players are like, okay, well, that means that we have, 9 rounds to figure this out and blah, 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 blah. So they're doing what they got to do to try and get everything sorted before that timer is up. It also can,
Yeah.
it can slow things down a little bit and help them plot out a little bit better.
I, it, yes, all of those things. I have something that I heard on Russ Morrissey's podcast years ago that I have stolen and used and shared, and I know I've mentioned it on this show. Russ said he likes to do a thing when GMing where if he's kind of just trying to motivate the table, um, I actually have used it. Actually, I think I used it in the very beginning of the murder mall scenario, where the cyber dogs are in that first thing.
Yeah.
He does a random timer. The way he does it, and this is brilliant and brilliantly simple. Pick a number between 1 and 6. Pick up a handful of d6s, 5, 6 of them. Just every so often, roll them. Take out any that come up with that number.
Hmm.
When you hit a certain threshold, something happens.
Yeah.
When you get to the end, the big thing happens. And we all know how everyone reacts when the GM starts rolling dice.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way of doing that as well. I've seen people, I've seen the full-on hourglass brought out to the table, set down on the table. You flip the hourglass and go, you have this amount of time to figure this out. Um, that's a great way to ratchet up tension, both in game and out of game.
Mm-hmm.
Just as that sand pours down through, you're like, uh. There's a VR game, virtual reality game called "Don't Talk, Keep Talking and No One Explodes." So the basic premise: you have these printed off manuals, and you have someone with the VR helmet on, and they can see a bomb in front of them, and the person with the manual has to read out the instructions on how to defuse the bomb, while the person in the headset's the only one that can really that they're the only one that can do the interacting with it. So they're like
Yeah.
trying to tell you what this bomb looks like while you're trying to look through the manual to read out like, oh, we'll cut the green wire. No, not that green wire.
Right. No, that sounds fun.
And that's it's a blast. It's a really great time. Um but yeah, that's something that you can definitely do where you have your, two players with two different knowledge sets being like, good grief, I'm tired tonight. But being like, oh, well, I know this about this and I know this about this, and we can communicate that back and forth. I think that's fun. Like I said, I like the timer on the table of just setting an hourglass and being like, okay, figure it out in this time. I like
Yeah.
the idea of setting an hourglass and not telling your players what the hourglass is set for.
Well, see, I
Just
think that
set it out there and don't say nothing.
depending on the type of game, but yes. In a sense though, like I like that it, anything like that, right? Like it forces focus in a lot of ways, which is always a good thing. I mean,
I think, and something I'll speak to. It's something sort of I've grown to really like about them. Investigative style games, so like Gumshoe, what I'm seeing with Hunter, those style games I find really entertaining and really enjoyable just out of the pure like puzzle pieces of it all. And I forgot where I was going with this thought.
That you like investigative games.
I do love investigative games. But I find that engagement, that's where I was going. I find that the tables end up more engaged with those type of games because it seems like everybody at the table is trying to put the puzzle together. Everybody at the table, as long as the buy-in for the storyline's good, everybody's sitting there going, well, what can I do to make this investigation go? What skill set does my character have that I can do to make this work better for you, right? Like in the hunter game we're playing, I'm playing like a rich muscle. Okay, so she has access to things that make it easy to push people around. Well, that's great. Some of my other players have more like occult knowledge and understanding of the supernatural. That's fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
starts to get into this where you find yourself really playing into your role in a lot of ways, and also
hmm
that not being a negative or stereotyped thing.
Well, but I think the thing too, or another element of this, one, investigative games help have that component of you're trying to be smart, and everyone usually likes to feel smart. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, but
Absolutely.
also think about for the last, well, for forever, really. Think about how much uh, media, television, film, etc., is investigation. I mean, heavens, they've gotten 20 some years out of Law and Order SVU alone.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention how many other, like,
Original Law and Order, any of that. Yeah.
going back to Perry Mason, Matlock, you know, the
Oh,
old
good
radio
grief.
dramas.
Let me tell you, have I ever talked to you about Kolchak the Night Stalker?
You've mentioned it a time or two, and I know there is a game based on it that hit Game of the Week once long, long ago.
Oh, maybe there is. I'm not 100% sure on that. But Kolchak the Night Stalker is an old TV series that is like almost a Columbo style detective going around and investigating the paranormal.
hmm
And it's what I like. I have watched a bunch of Kolchak, and I have stolen a bunch of Kolchak for like games I'm working on, because I really enjoy those investigative type games, and I also like the idea of just throwing a normal schlubby investigator at the weird.
hmm
And it doesn't necessarily have to be that Delta Green style where it's like, oh well, you'll go insane. It could just be, he's investigating and oh no, it was Bigfoot that actually did it.
hmm
Like
No, that's cool. That's I mean, kind of I get where I think you're going with it. I don't think I've ever watched it. My kind of latest kind of put it on for background noise thing has been I don't even know what network it was on. The Mentalist.
oh yeah, I liked The Mentalist. I watched some of it.
It's been entertaining. It's a little I mean, look, it's pretty stereotypical investigative drama, but even I think where I was going with that, right? So much of that has been done. It's also easy for, and you mentioned like the roles. Well, that's kind of always a thing, right? You have just because the mentalist, okay, you've got Patrick Jane, the uber smart whatever guy. You've got the I can't think of the character's name, but the Asian actor that is kind of the quiet straight guy. You know, you've got the young muscle guy. You've got the various you know the female characters that are maybe the boss that's a little uptight, but whatever. Like there's so many stereotypes that are very prominent in all of our minds, and maybe it's not from the same series, but we still we all have tropes and stereotypes in our heads that, well, I'm going to do this thing because I saw this character do it on a show, and it makes it feel, I don't know, it's accessible.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I don't know, with investigative media being such a prominent thing in most storytelling. I think it also makes for an easier buy-in for players in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you've touched on some of that, but like your players can understand, like you said with the Mentalist, or I'm thinking of like Criminal Minds, or
Mhm.
any of those, like NCIS, or CSI, any of the investigative dramas that have come out in the past, let's say, I don't know, 20 years, even further than that though. Um it's really interesting. uh, a game that we've talked about that's an investigative game with a sort of fun twist, and we haven't talked about it in a while, but it's Dallas the RPG,
Mhm.
based on the original. Um, that's a game with a really interesting investigative twist, but at the same time, it's made up to be like TV episodes.
Mhm. And
So
that's
it's
long since
really,
out of print, but if you dig around, you could
yeah,
find it.
uh, yeah.
Like
If you poke
PDF
around
scans
or
of it.
run into me on a good day, I'm sure we could play around of it. But that's another one of those, who shot JR? It's one of those investigative, like, what is going on here? What's happening? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Who are the players?
Yeah.
It's something I really have just come to enjoy, both as a player and running games. Is I love that, like, who, what, when, where, and why. Those whodunits. Oh, I love a
Mhm.
whodunit.
So
Um,
this,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind me tangenting off a little bit, you
Go
mentioned that
for it.
this was kind of you thought a half topic, and I had kind of a half topic, but I didn't tell you what it was. But it sort of ties into
Hmm.
this, I think. So I
Okay.
realized the other day, I don't know, over the last couple weeks, whatever, how many hats you wear while you're GMing.
I find if I wear more than two, it gets kind of unruly.
But where I'm going with this is not so much, so like as a GM, right? You're part arbiter of the rules, you're part god of the world, you're part all kinds of things, but you're also balancing, and like you were talking about, like timers and stuff like that, and keeping the world feeling real. And I realized that, and I think that this is, call it self-reflection. I feel like, and you've played with me, so maybe you could speak to this a little more. I'm very good at running the game at the table, or at least quite good. And not to be egotistical about it.
Right.
But another part of being a GM is, well, there's the storyteller side of it, but you also have to, you don't have to because there's pre-written stuff, but being able to put the story together to tell it. And I think sometimes I've realized I'm, I feel pretty good at the table, but I'm often struggling to get the things to bring to the table. And like when we're talking about the investigations and stuff, and it's like once it starts moving, my brain, I kind of get into it as a player, almost even GMing, and so I start, pulling this and this and this and this, and it all comes together. But having that initial thing,
Oh yeah, no,
you get where
my
I'm going. Like I can run the game fine, but having the thing to run with sometimes is the struggle.
yeah, I feel that I do. I completely understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I don't know. I really enjoy, like, okay. Again, it goes back to the sometimes we run games with half-cocked ideas, and that's just the way it is. Um, but it's the idea of, oh, I'll figure out, like, where the end of the puzzle is, right? You know what the
Mhm.
picture is supposed to look like. You're just not 100% sure how we're getting there.
Mhm.
And I like to, um one of the things I'll do is sort of an improv thing, is play off my players' expectations, hear what they're like. Oh, well, we want to go talk to Old Lady Jenkins. Well, okay, Old Lady Jenkins doesn't really have anything going on, but she did see her grandson. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And just giving little pieces and morsels from based on what the players are trying to, like, where they think the story's going, and that's where we're going to head it. But at the same time, you can also throw in those, you know dead ends, brick walls, left turns, all of that stuff that you would do.
But But those things, like you just talked about, the dead ends or the brick walls, can be the result of an expired timer.
Exactly, exactly, and that's where maybe we went to a location, maybe, uh, and this can be true for both sides. Maybe urgency wasn't communicated, or maybe urgency was communicated, but the players ignored it.
Yeah.
And because I've had that happen, where it's been like, okay, you guys need to get over to this location to check in on grandma, because grandma had been visited by 3 ghosts earlier,
Hmm.
and the players, for lack of a better term, dick around somewhere for too long, and then go check on grandma, and grandma's gone.
Right.
And,
Well, I
and that's
mean,
one of those. What was that?
Little Red Riding Hood, right? You get there
Well,
too
yeah,
late. Maybe
yeah,
all you find is a bloody red cape.
right, yeah. And that's where that timer expired, and you guys didn't act in a effective manner.
Well, but I think too that opens up the the fallout and the decisions have consequences.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and giving decisions consequences and giving things weight, it really helps with making the world again feel lived in and real. It helps with player engagement. I know for me, it really does help me dig in, like, oh man, we missed that clue, that's a big deal, we're gonna, like, we had an NPC escape our grasp recently.
hmm
That's a problem.
well, but see, and like again, to point to media, right? That was the thing to me that made Breaking Bad so amazing was the amount of callbacks and the cascade of consequences of
Oh yeah.
decisions. You know, even down to where and I kind of loved it, although I doubt it was originally planned. But that reveal in the final season that whatever his name was, the guy that they had chained up in the basement for a while in season one was a CI. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that's a fantastic series, honestly.
yeah, it is. Another one that's actually really good, and Bryan Cranston plays the lead also is
Malcolm in the
Your
Middle.
Honor.
Your Honor is fun. Um,
And it again plays on the decisions have consequences theme.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
actually
absolutely.
somewhat on timers too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of timer, my brain timer is running out. So unfortunately, folks, you're going to get a short one this week. But before we get into the end of the episode, we got to talk about Game of the Week.
Woohoo! Game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
I have one. It's a solo RPG. It's a little bit weird. It's called Gut Gun. Gutgun. I can throw a link here momentarily.
Aha.
Gotta go to the right place. It kind of reminds me of some video games I've played. The description reads, they tried to sacrifice you to their god. They failed, and now blessed by a rival god, with the power of the gut gun, you will tear them down. Your gut is your gun is your gut. This looks goofy, silly. It's pay what you, or no, it's $16. And yeah, it literally just came out today. It's got like a Doom, Quake, Ultra Kill kind of vibe. It just looks fun, goofy, kind
I
of thing that I
mean,
enjoy.
yeah, it does look interesting in
Right?
some ways. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of pages for a solo game
It,
too.
it really is 130 pages for a solo game. It's really impressive.
4 episode campaign.
Yeah. Plenty of content. I mean, it really definitely seems like something somebody cares about, and I can definitely see it. It definitely seems like something somebody cares about.
Yeah,
Um,
I
so
know it looks interesting.
yeah, very much. But again, that is Gut Gun.
All right. So many moons ago,
Uh-huh.
I backed a game on Kickstarter, and we
And
even
you
right at about the close of the campaign had someone from the company come on and talk about it. Now, I have been waiting at first patiently and then impatiently, but it finally got here last week. I've had the PDF for a bit, but generally speaking, I tend to forget I have things on PDF. But this week, I received a book that the concept is too good to not like do something with, right? Because
Right.
we're just talking about investigative things and weird things and so on. And look, let's be honest, like the Jack Sparrow movies are good fun.
Hmm.
Well, and pirates are fascinating.
Right.
Even especially if you dig into like some of the actual history of piracy and some of the people and so on, it's really rather interesting. But anyway, so the game, and I got this book the other day. It's finally out. It is available on PDF. It's a game called Cursed Captains of Cthulhu. Now, I mean, look, it's pirates, golden age of sail meets eldritch weirdness. Like,
Right.
it just, I mean, what more is there to say, right? Like, and I will say the art in the book is really impressive. I mean, or there are some pieces that are really cool.
I mean, I've been excited for this for a long time. And I'm not trying to dog on them, but it's been a long time since there've been any like updates on what's going on. And now you've got a physical copy.
Yeah,
And that's definitely something. Now it's a and I hate to say this, but now it's a real game. Like
right. And like, it's a very nice book. Um, there's a lot of stuff. I literally got it last week, and well, my house was invaded by 5 of my nieces and nephews for the week, and then as if that wasn't enough, I renovated half the kitchen the weekend after they left. So, well, not half. A new countertop, sink, dishwasher, and garbage disposal.
well, that's about half.
Yeah, and not including the cabinets.
Well, what's left? Cabinets, floor, refrigerator?
Oh,
Like
well, see, that's part of it, right? So the refrigerator, when we got a new refrigerator, it wouldn't fit where the old
okay.
one was because of the height.
Right.
So that got moved across the room against the wall. Well, now there's a space, right? Kind of not immediately next to the sink, but over next to the sink where there's nothing there. Well, a dishwasher
Mm.
would fit nicely in the hole.
Hmm.
But to run a dishwasher, you have to have electricity and plumbing.
Aha.
Well, the plumbing isn't hard because it's right next to the sink.
No, but the electricity can be.
Well, all honesty, it wasn't as bad as it could have been because I, despite not having formal training, I have worked in and around that business long enough that I know how to do things.
Well, yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
as it turns out, the panel was about 8 feet away on the other side of the floor.
Oh, good. Well, that's easy enough.
Right? Drill a
That's
hole, poke some wires down, stick a fish tape
boop,
through the
boop,
ceiling
boop.
from the panel,
Yep.
pull them over.
Bob's your auntie. Yeah.
Bob's your uncle. So,
Right.
but yeah, so Cursed Captains of Cthulhu is out. I mean, Golden Age of Sail, pirate weirdness. eh, What more is
Yeah.
there to say? It's an original 4D6 based system. I haven't opened it up and read it because I haven't had time. But
I mean, it seems cool, and I'm glad to see it in person.
oh, and let me throw you the link because I'm an idiot and didn't remember to do that again.
You're fine. That's more for you than it is
Well,
for me
yes,
because I
but
already have it.
like it's I don't know. I mean, it's Black Cats Gaming, which was a side project of some people that worked at Modifius. Like I said, really cool concept. Want to kind of crack it open and come up with some stuff and maybe have some fun with it because you know.
Yeah. Well, very cool. And with all that being said, links to everything as always are in the show notes. Discord, Patreon, YouTube, and any podcatchers that you can think of. You can find us there. As always, we want to remind everyone to be kind to one another and get out there and play some RPGs.
Yep. Take care, y'all.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @andrpgs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.